Yo, yo, what's going on, world? Welcome to the Life Malcolm Show, right here on In Touch News, where everybody is a star, and of course, you know, the biggest star is you. Really, really happy to have you with us today. Today is going to be, a show of variety, if you will. I am going to, of course, do my thing for the first portion of the show. You know how I do it. Then we're going to have a special guest. I'm going to tell you more about that when we get towards that part of the program, when we get towards our first break. But I just want you to know, stay tuned, because we got a special guest. We're going to be talking about some important things going on in the Tampa Bay area. Some progressive, if you will, progressive things going on in the Tampa Bay area. So definitely want you to stay tuned so you can get that information. But let me go ahead and start off with the official particulars of the evening. I am your host, Life Malcolm. Welcome to the Life Malcolm Show. I really want to take a moment to express my deep and profound appreciation for the people who keep this thing together, namely DJ CEO and Mrs. DJ CEO, aka Tampa Bay Tammy. Every week I get on here and at least try to say something that expresses to some degree my tremendous amount of appreciation for the commitment that DJ CEO and Mrs. DJ CEO have to this platform, to the Life Malcolm Show in particular, and to all the programmers. They make sure that we are able to come up in here and do what we do for you. Definitely want to give a shout out to my always there DJ ANA, the super duper producer who is the magic behind the madness. Definitely appreciate her. And also, we've been on with us now for about a month. My main man Bizzle up in the business, Bezel in the building. I call him Bizzle because he be handling business, but Bezel with the business. Behind the boards these days, doing his thing. And anybody who knows me knows I put a nickname on you. All my children got nicknames, granddaughter and all that. But okay, so the Life Malcolm Show. You can call in at 813-444-9588. Would love to hear from you. Just pick up the phone, call in, and we're gonna put you on the air. Let's just talk. Say what you want to say to to the people. And to me, I'm all ears. Definitely want to know what you're talking about. What's on your mind? There's a lot of stuff going on in the world. People talking about Afghanistan and the Taliban. That's an incredible discussion. I saw a meme today that had like some images of what purported to be the Taliban caravan at the top of the image, and then a caravan of United States Americans or something like that. And the meme said at the top, their Taliban, and then it had the flag waving Americans and stuff at the bottom. It said our Taliban. And my retort to that was, that's just backwards, just plain backwards, because the reality is the people, the so-called Americans, so the Taliban, right? They are in their own land, fighting for their resources, fighting for their right to live their lives as a free people. Or on the other hand, you have what the people try to characterize as the American Taliban. This group of people waving this American flag, which is a flag that symbolizes the theft of other people's land, the theft of other people's resources, the murder and exploitation of myriad nations of people. It has nothing to do with fighting for freedom or justice or autonomy. It just has everything to do with just the opposite of that. So it's important that people get some kind of political education, especially in such a critical time as this, where imperialism, capitalism, and colonialism are on their heels. The people of the world have been fighting a tremendous fight, waging tremendous resistance for the past, of course, since colonialism enwrapped us in its snares, but certainly since we've been here in this country, and since the United States government crushed the Black Power revolution of the 1960s. Africans and other colonized people around the world have been struggling and engaged in all kinds of righteous struggles, fighting for the end of colonial capitalism, the end of colonialism, and the end of exploitation by the colonizer. And so, we're and more and more you can see we're winning. All the manifestations in the news that are mischaracterized by mainstream media, like what's going on in Afghanistan, people talking about, people believe somehow that the Taliban winning is a bad thing, but the reality is the Taliban winning is a win for all colonized people around the world. That's the reality, because if one colonized people win some separation from colonialism, that opens the door for others of us who are colonized to claim victory in the areas where we are as well. I mean, I'm not old enough to remember, but I know the history well enough to know that in the 60s, in the 70s, early 70s, there was turmoil every day under the sun, shaking colonialism up, shaking up colonial capitalism. People were engaged in constant resistance all the time, and that's why the United States had to get out of Vietnam, not just because of the courageous efforts of the Vietnamese people in fighting back and resisting colonial aggression, but because there was resistance in Cuba, there was resistance in Russia, there was resistance against colonial capitalism right here in the United States amongst the African working class, waging wars in all over the United States. And so, yeah, that's a conversation that one day maybe we can have. But people are talking about it. People, of course, are talking about this colonial virus. And so, yeah, I got to talk about it too. I can't help but talk about it because it's so prevalent, so in your face. And, again, I don't really pay much attention to the colonizers' news broadcasts. The way I get most of my news is on Instagram and Facebook. Like, if I see something about them people, it's mostly through some kind of social media platform. And so, I see people. I listen to, of course, some community radio shows, and that seem to have a palatable grasp on what's going on in the world, certainly not African internationalism. And of course, I mean, really listening to Chairman of Mali Sotelo on Sundays and reading the Burn and Spit newspaper, of course, is, how I pick up on what I put down. But, so I saw somebody, this idea, right? I had the opportunity this past Sunday to be a guest on a radio program, and for 2 hours, all we talked about was the colonial virus and the colonial virus, the dose they give you for purporting to help with the colonial virus or something, like help you protect yourself or something from the colonial virus, and it was. And we talked about one caring for themselves, doing stuff like eating well, exercising, hydrating well, etc. For in the context of this colonial virus discussion we had this past Sunday. And so my mind, of course, when you look for a yellow car, or when you think about a yellow car, if you get a yellow car, you're in a yellow car, you see all the yellow cars. So whatever you pretty much think about, or when you think about something, you drum it up. Even if you think about being mad all the time, you can find something to be mad about all the time. So, that kind of thing. So the colonial virus being on my mind, these memes, catch my eye. And man, these people, there's this logic, this logic that's out there, if you want to call it logic, that suggests that people, because when we were children, our parents got us vaccinated. They suggest that the fact that when we were children, our parents got us vaccinated, and there's some likelihood that we got our children vaccinated. Because those things are true, we should then be compelled to take this vaccine that ain't safe for children. It's just like, I can't tell if when people say that kind of stuff, if they really believe that stuff, or if they just saying, if I go for the okie dose, So yeah, that was one idea. But in that conversation that we had this past Sunday, one of the things that was a constant theme, well, two things that were constant themes in that conversation was the mask and the dose, getting the colonial virus dose. And the thought was that the mask is a barrier, right? The mask is a barrier. That's this function to serve as a barrier against the colonial virus. And the vaccine, I was on the radio show with a guy named Gary Stein who says he worked with CDC, and he did not say in what capacity, but clearly he was more than the janitor. He's pretty proficient in the the area of infectious diseases, and even I found his expressions of knowledge regarding health and nutrition to be persuasive. So I was on the show with a guy who knows what he's talking about, who's done some research, spent some time learning about these things. And we didn't necessarily, although we diverge on whether it's necessary for one to take the dose and wear a mask, we did not diverge about many scientific aspects surrounding the colonial virus and the dose. So I'm about to get ready to go to break, but I guess I got to tell you 2 and 3 later. But there were two things. So I'm talking about the barrier and the exposure. The barrier being the mask and the exposure being the vaccine. I want to talk about that when later on in the show, and also talk about some other ideas that came up in that conversation, and they kind of correspond with what we see a lot in social media and even in mainstream media from what I'm told. So next though, gonna call in our special guest. He's gonna be right here with us to tell us about the Envision resolution and moving from intent to impact. There's an event coming up in the next few days, and we're gonna learn more about it on the other side of this break. I appreciate you for tuning in with us so far. Hope you stay tuned, and we'll see you after these messages.
So believe we hunted down 813-248-6300. Everything gon' be okay. Call Ricky, he coming. He taking kids state of Florida. Grab a pin of sundown. 184-361-RIG. That's 184-361-425. Never word from the point forward, just recline. Just ask Ricky, plus your boy statewide. Just in case you missed it, I'ma tell you one more time. 184-361-RIG. Call Ricky, ask Ricky. Legal and medical referral service. The doctors and lawyers in our network are trained in handling auto injury claims and getting you the best medical treatment and recovery. Dial 1-844-361-RIC. That's
All right. All right. Welcome back, world. Welcome back to the Life Malcolm Show. Again, I am your host, Life Malcolm, and you're tuned in to the Life Malcolm Show via In Touch News, where everybody is a star and the biggest star is you. Of course, our call-in number is 813-444-5588. And if you want to call in and talk to myself, to our guest, just talk to the world, welcome you to go ahead and do that. But right now, I want to introduce my guest for the evening. He's going to tell us about Envision Resolution. I'm anxious to hear and learn about it because I got a phone call and said, hey, Life, you got to get this on the program because it's a big deal for the community and your audience would love to hear about this event. And so I have the extreme pleasure to have next to me and to present to you Reverend. I want to call him doctor. So he looks, very sophisticated. I feel like it should say more than just Reverend. So for now, I'm just going to say Reverend Doctor Anthony White is here. He is the pastor of Bible Based, and Bible Based, the one out there on Ehrlich Road, is has been a bastion of hope and Christian fellowship for this community for quite some time. And Reverend Dr. White has been the pastor there, the leader there since 2013. So 8 years strong. He's been leading and letting his light shine. And so today, Pastor's going to tell us about Envision Resolution. Y'all welcome Pastor White, Anthony White, to the Life Malcolm Show. All right. Sometimes, how you preach every Sunday. Sometimes the audience is slow to respond, but that's okay. We're not worried about it. All right. I know you know the words to say to wake them up. So listen, Pastor, before we jump right into Envision, can you just tell us a little bit about yourself? I'm sure, a lot of people know you, but there might be a few who don't. Tell us where you from.
Absolutely. Well, let me first say thank you for this forum, this opportunity, for the work that you're doing in our community to help us stay woke. And so I appreciate the work that you've been doing for some time now, Life. My name's Anthony White, and I'm actually a native of Baltimore, Maryland.
Okay.
But we have been in Tampa. My wife and I, we came down in 1996, so we've been here for 25 years.
Wow.
I finished at USF, in public relations, and before I had joined Bible Based, so we've been at Bible Based that entire time.
Okay.
And acknowledged my call to the ministry there under Pastor Art Jones, Arthur T. Jones, who was the founder of that ministry. And then, as God would have it, he had me to be his successor. So we've been trying to carry on his legacy and honor the work that he started here.
Yeah. Art was a big dude.
Absolutely.
And he left some big shoes.
Yeah. I always say I can't fill those shoes.
Yeah.
But we're trying to continue the work that he started.
Well, I tell you what, Pastor, I ain't heard nothing bad about Bible Based since he left. So
That's a start.
And I've heard some good work, some good words about the work that you've been doing. And so specifically, we're here to talk about Envision Resolution. Is that right? Now, tell me, is that, I saw the flyer. Mm-hmm. Is that, and I shared the flyer with the people, so our listeners may know, even people who aren't listening right now, will see it later, but you can, I didn't know whether that was the title of the event, if that's the name of the, but just tell me what Envision Resolution is about.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you about the event because that gives a little background to it. For most of us know that the church has been the cradle, really, of social activism, particularly in the black community, and been the pillar, really, of much of the change that has taken place. So we always want to be socially engaged in our community. And so what we have been doing for some time is a forum that's called Our Community, Our Voice. And we do it about quarterly, periodically. And so we picked it up last year in the midst of all of the protests and things, the social unrest that was going on in our community. And what I did is I took the topic from what I knew was happening in some other metropolitan areas, and so wanted to explore the topic of racism as a public health crisis. I know that other areas like in Dallas and Milwaukee and Columbus, they had been doing work around this topic, and even some other metro areas. So we hosted that as a topic. and members of our justice ministry within our church, man, they caught hold of that, and they wanted to push it forward here in our community, because we understand that racism is a very real thing. Everybody knows that that's not something new. Even last year in 2020, Merriam-Webster, the dictionary, had to update the definition of racism. So we really were riding on the winds of what was happening in the wake of the George Floyd death and what was taking place in our community, and I thought it was an opportune time for us to move this matter forward here in Hillsborough County.
Can you tell me the name of that forum again?
Our Community, Our Voice.
Our Community, Our Voice. And you say it happens about quarterly.
It happens about quarterly. It's a forum where we take up issues to help educate, empower, and really equip members of the community about topics that here. We've done AIDS, HIV and AIDS.
Okay.
We've done police, how to encounter the police. We've done other health topics, as well as financial things. So
Okay.
periodically we do different things, but this was a carryover from that topic in June of last year.
So is this is Our Community, Our Voice? Are those sessions held at Bible Base, or where
Yeah,
do
they
those
have
take
been
place?
they have been held at Bible-Based Fellowship Church.
Okay.
Of course, the one last year in 2020 was virtually.
Okay.
And this event also is a virtual event.
Let's talk about this event. Envision Resolution.
Yes, sir.
All right. Now, tell me about that.
Yeah, and so last year, as a result of the work that people, not just members of our church, but people in the community, so we engaged other partners, USF, Department of Health, and other clergy leaders, as well as myself. And so in the end, on September 16th, the Hillsborough County Board of Commissioners adopted a resolution that named racism in our county as a public health crisis. And so this is the anniversary of that adoption of that resolution. Now, of course, with that resolution, there were a number of action items that needed to take place. And so that's the whole thing with moving from intent to impact.
Right.
So we just don't want to have a resolution and name on the books, so it happened and nothing concrete takes place.
Right.
So this forum is an invitation to the Hillsborough County, all of the Hillsborough County, to the entire community, to let's find out where are we relative to what things should have taken place by now as it relates to this actual resolution that was adopted.
Okay, so now before we talk further about the resolution and from intent to impact, let me ask you, because you've got me curious now.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you talked about racism as a health crisis.
Yes.
So what are some of the symptoms? What did y'all come up with there? How did y'all conclude that racism is a health crisis?
Yeah, actually, it didn't even just start with us.
Okay.
Before we got to that place, the Florida Department of Health for Hillsborough County had done some research on health equity and had identified racism as a culprit and a cause that, and this of course isn't new, but it has impacted our health over centuries. And so not only that, but other organizations were studying the impact of poverty and the disparities as it relates to poverty, as it relates to unemployment, as it relates to affordable housing, all of these issues, and can be traced back to racism, which is a system.
Right. So if racism is a healthcare crisis, there must be some healing, some medicine or something. And I guess that's what this Envision Resolution program is going to tell us. It's going to give it some medicine.
Yeah, well, it's going to help us absolutely. I think one of the things that quote that we know and love by James Baldwin is, not everything that is faced can be changed, but nothing can be changed until it is faced. And
Right
so
on.
this forum is to help us face it. We're going to have at this forum some of our county commissioners,
Okay.
and as well as some of our other partners with the Department of Health and the equity folks that do this equity study, as well as the broader community to help us envision what this medicine should be.
Okay.
To make movement and progress in the areas of those things that we named, like affordable housing and healthcare and jobs and things like that.
So what time is this doctor's appointment? Tell us how we set this thing up, how we get to the program. I know you say it's virtual. Go ahead and give us all the information.
Yeah, absolutely. So all we need people to do is to register. It is virtual. It's going to be hosted by Zoom, and you can register by going to our church website, which is Bible, BIBLE -based BASED .org/envision, ENVISON. And when you do that, it'll come up and you can just register there. There's no cost or anything like that associated. It's free. It's just a forum. We need the community because this impacts all of us,
Right.
regardless of race, et cetera. We need all of us to be a part of this forum so that we can help push the needle forward.
So I know you're going to have speakers from several areas of our community. You mentioned elected officials and others, partners that you have. Now, of course, they'll be talking. Will people via the Zoom platform be able to ask questions, like maybe in a chat, or is there some kind of way
absolutely.
people can participate?
Absolutely. There'll be a way for people to participate via chat, via breakout, via other means, so that we can hear from people in the community.
Right on.
And that's part of the whole impetus behind Envision Resolution. We want others to help us envision this change, and we want to also hold our elected officials and others accountable for the movement that should be taking place as a result of the resolution that was adopted.
So last question before I go to break here. What can people expect to leave the program with after they hang out at the doctor's office on September 16th?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, to continue your analogy of the doctor's office, when you go, you hopefully will leave with some kind of prescription.
Right on.
And so we want people to come, and we want them to leave with an idea of the next action items that need to take place, to know exactly what our elected officials are doing, to become aware of this, and to know what they can do to help push the needle forward. And so there may be some concrete things that we as members of the community can do, like voting, like becoming engaged in the process, that we can do to help hold them accountable and actually get some results to move the needle forward.
Right on. Well, Pastor, I really appreciate you stepping by. And I'm going to go to break. You're welcome to stay and say some more if you like. But what I do know is, people, this is going to be a powerful program, and it's going to require you. Of course, Jesus, like Pastor said when he first came on the show, that the church has always been an important centerpiece in our progress, in our struggles against racism, if you will. Mm-hmm. But one thing we know for sure, Bible-based, this is Bible-based. Jesus just didn't do miracles for anybody and everybody. He did miracles for people who believed. You understand?
That's right.
And not only that, sometimes it was required that you did something too, like take up your bed, rise up, and walk. Right. And so we're looking forward to seeing y'all.
Good there, like you preaching good.
Well, I'm in good company. So we're looking forward to seeing y'all at Envision Resolution and on the other side of this break. We'll be right back.
Hey, this is Agent Wright, better known as Mr. Clean. You looking for some great barbecues? Come see them two brothers in the grill, located at 423 Virginia Street, Charleston, West Virginia. We got ribs, chicken, pulled pork, brisket, collard greens, mac and cheese, baby. Come get some and get you a nice, smooth cigar. 304-550-4431. That is 304-550-4431. Come get some, baby. The Rib Man, mama, the Rib Man.
Cancer affects everyone, but minority populations are often hit hardest. Moffitt Cancer Center is working to address the barriers that keep some groups from getting the care they need. African Americans develop cancer at a younger age, have more aggressive cancers, and experience worse outcomes than the general population.
While cancer treatment is evolving with precision medicine, who is being left behind? We know for many decades that some groups experience a greater burden of cancer than others. We can prevent it, we can detect it early. It's very beatable when we find it early. I have worked with cancer patients during their treatment. All cancer patients have courage.
So my treatment was about 18 months. I had 3 cancers and 7 surgeries. But my son told me, like, Mom, you're the strongest person that I know. Moffitt saved my life.
During COVID-19, Moffitt is a safe place for your cancer care. Call now to schedule an appointment.
All right. Welcome back to the Life Malcolm Show right here on In Touch News. I'm your host, Life Malcolm. I really appreciate the pastor stopping by and, sharing a culminating event to this, good work that the church has been doing in our community. I know a lot of us criticize the church and church folk for not doing much. So it's good to see not doing much it seems sometimes to help with our struggles that we face outside the church, in the streets, in constant confrontation with things that stem from what one might call racism. Y'all know how we do here. We don't really deal with the whole idea of racism because we understand that racism is just colonialism cloaked in some kind of term that the colonizer uses to deflect the colonized from the mission, right? Because the mission is to overturn colonialism. I agree. Everything that's wrong, I shouldn't say I agree because Pastor didn't say that. I'm not trying to put words in Pastor's mouth. But whatever symptoms they identified, he mentioned a few, the lack of affordable housing, kind of stuff that happened last year when people were in an uproar around what we all saw police do to George Floyd and the United States government's handling of that man's murder. And other things, right? I agree that all those symptoms and I take it further, everything else. We got a caller. Everything else that caller, I'm gonna be right with you. I just want to say this: everything else that's wrong with an African, any colonized person in the world is because of colonialism, and we're gonna talk a little bit more about that after we talk to our caller. Caller, come in.
Yes, good afternoon. How are you?
Doing well, thank you. Yourself? Can you please tell us your name and where you're calling from?
Calling from Tampa, and I wanted to just probably not bring to your attention, but just make a comment. You mentioned about racism, discrimination, and I compare all of it, this is my personal opinion, to what happened to George Floyd openly, that the whole world saw it, bad cops getting away. But what happens when good cops do the right thing and they're discriminated against and they have a knee on their neck and no one says anything? And I know personally people who have been discriminated against have been fired from this city of Tampa Police Department.
So I just want to be clear, caller. You're saying that you are aware that the Tampa Police Department is mistreating police in their ranks, and you said you brought it up in the context of racism. Are we talking about black police? I mean, because we all heard the story of Delvin White. Are you saying that it's deeper than that, more expansive than that kind of thing? Can you say more? Are you at liberty to do so?
Yeah, Yeah, I can say more because yes, it's very discriminatory. I mean, females have been discriminated against who didn't go along with some of the verbal sexual things against them, and because they were doing their job, they were demoted and then fired. And I mean, there was a recent story, a couple months back about the young lady who was set up by the police department, said that she did something wrong, and she proved that she didn't. The state attorney had to drop it, and then it just goes away, but she's without income, her credibility, all of that. So to me, it still compares to the George Floyd. People can see it. It may be not globally, but it's happening.
I really appreciate this call. For a very long time, I've been aware that, in my view, there's a problem with the police, period. But, that discussion notwithstanding, or that discussion aside, it's been, for a very long time, I've told people there's something specifically and dangerously wrong with the Tampa Police Department and its leadership prior to whoever's running the show right now, but the previous police chief and the one before that. So, yeah, I really appreciate this call, and if there's anything that Life Malcolm or the Life Malcolm Show can do to help, please feel free to give me a call, and I'll make a way to make sure that you have my phone number. So
Okay.
I really appreciate the call, caller. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
All right. So you heard it here first on the Life Malcolm Show. Corruption, discrimination in the Tampa Police Department. Not going to say a whole lot more about it, especially not in this specific context, because the caller sounds like she's sitting on some information that just might move the needle, shift things around, shake things up in the city. And we don't want to jeopardize that by talking too much right now. But I will tell you that it takes courageous people like the caller who just called in to make a bold stand, take a position, to say wrong is wrong. I mean, y'all know, I'm no fan of the police, but I'm a fan of right. When Brian Duggan, fired Delvin White for saying what people call the N-word, I thought it was the most asinine kind of thing, right? Because despite the fact you have white police who murder us, brutalize us, terrorize us every day in the city of Tampa because we ride the bicycle, because we don't have a license plate or a light shining on the license plate. I don't know if they do that no more after June of 2010, but they used to do that kind of thing. Stop you with the light. And if you're walking down the street with your bicycle, something. What? So all this stuff, all this terrorizing that these white police do to African people, they're gonna fire the African for being colloquial with other Africans, right? And I just thought that was telling in and of itself. And so now we see that that's just the surface. Apparently there's more lurking in the abyss, and we're gonna dig into that, y'all. We're gonna back to pastors' work and envision resolution. I'm going to tune in. I'm going to register and tune in. I suggest that you do too. Seems like it's going to be an interesting conversation even without us, but I'm sure that our contribution will enrich the discussion. So let's do that. Let's support this pastor and this project and be a part of this discussion, because as I mentioned a bit ago, the world is changing, and history is on our side, especially if you're on the right side of history. So this idea that colonialism or racism, for some, in some people's mind. Oh, let's talk about that a little bit. Let's chop it up a little bit. Racism is just, what is it, right? I mean, in your mind, how do you define racism? For me, African internationalism teaches us and has taught me that racism is just some thought in some white person's head. The white person feels some kind of way about some colonized person, and because of that thought, they behave a certain kind of way. But how do you fight against somebody's thought in their head? Like, how do you know when you've overcome that kind of that ideation in somebody's mind? How do you know when how do you measure progress in that fight against racism, right? What is it? How do you identify even who you are as a person in the broad scheme of history by measuring yourself against some person's idea of you? No, the idea of white people in their mind that they don't like you is not the thing we fight against. We must fight, or should fight against. We must fight for power. And when I say, who does that make you? Like, everybody can fight against racism. Everybody say they fight. Everybody say they against. Well, most people, a lot of people say they're against racism. Any kind of person can say it. Donald Trump can say he against racism. Joe Biden can say he against racism, and all of them against you. So you against racism and they're against racism. It's kind of like when Malcolm say, you calling yourself American and they call themselves American, you pray to God and they pray to God, and you Christian, and then you talking about why they putting a rope around your neck. Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. So this idea of fighting against racism doesn't give you any kind of perspective of who you are in the timeline of history. But when you look at yourself in real practical terms, objective terms, like who are you in the scope of history? Are you a person? Do you belong to a nation or a people with power, or do you belong to a nation or people who are subject to other people's power? And when you make that identification and discern that you are part of, I'm talking to the colonized nation, the colonized African nation, when you discern that you are part of the powerless, part of the colonized nation of people who don't have power and control over your own life, you become more intelligent and start fighting and struggling to have that kind of power over your life. And whether somebody likes you or not becomes irrelevant. And like, I love the fact that I like to say that thing that Henry Kissinger said: when you have power, power is a hell of an aphrodisiac. You'd be surprised how much people like you when you get power. So we don't fight against racism. We fight against colonialism, because we're in the struggle for power. And right now we fighting against the clock because we got to take a break, but we will be right back. You tuned into the Life Malcolm Show on In Touch News. Caller, stay right there. I'm gonna get you after the break. What's going on, caller? Stay right there. I'm gonna get you on after the break.
doctors and lawyers in our network are trained in handling auto injury claims and getting you the best medical treatment and recovery. Dial 1-844-361-RICK. That's 1-844-361-7425. Ricky. Ass. Ricky.
In Touch Radio.
This is Joel Sylvain
And Kevin Carr.
and we're with Power Moves, where celebrities, athletes, key influential executives
Influencers.
share how they make money,
Money.
how they attract power, and how they earn respect. Come join us every Tuesday at 8 p.m. Power Moves.
On In Touch Radio.
All right, well, thank you so much for being with us on the Life Malcolm Show. We have a caller. Do we still have him? All right, okay. All right, well, listen, caller, if you still tuned in, call back in. Caller, you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, caller, go ahead.
Thank you, Brother Life. I just want to thank you so much for the issues that you bring to the table and you have presented today. And I also want to congratulate you and the law firm that you are affiliated with for winning a major trial in Tampa several weeks ago. I've been a long-time resident in Tampa. It's been a long time since we had a black lawyer that would go in there and fight this wicked system toe for toe and come out with a not guilty verdict. I also want to thank Dr. Pastor Patricia Hauser from the Potter's Home Tabernacle Church, who just called in, and she's fighting for justice for a young lady that has been done extremely wrong by the Tampa Police Department with the racial discrimination. And we're looking forward to having these type of issues brought to the forefront, because if the playing field is not level, we as black people can never win.
Right on.
And it's just an honor to be affiliated with someone that has the intestinal fortitude to fight and not lay down and let people walk on you. As James Brown said, I'd rather down my feet than live on my knees.
Right on.
And we have so many elected officials and some that's involved in these organizations that they're living on their knees for the sake of getting along with a police department in Tampa, a mayor in Tampa, that have shown that they are not with black people. And I just want to thank you. And like I say, we look forward to your law firm blossoming as the late Johnny Cochran law firm did. And we appreciate you so much. And want to thank Dr. Hauser for what she's doing to help this young lady.
Yeah, right on. I really appreciate the call. Thank you so much, and I definitely appreciate the acknowledgement and recognition as well as the words of encouragement. And we're gonna do our best to live up to those expectations.
Thank you, sir.
All right, to be continued. All right, so man, two very invigorating phone calls. I appreciate them so much. You can call in as well. The phone number is 813-444-9588. So yeah, the idea of colonialism and racism and everything, like I was saying a bit ago, everything that's wrong with African people and other colonized people everywhere in the world is wrong with us because of colonialism. And the only way to solve it, the only medicine, it's not something you can live with. Colonialism is like a tapeworm. Chairman O'Malley used to tell our teachers us that colonialism is like a tapeworm, a parasite, and it just sucks your life, your resources from you every day. You know it yourself in your own experience. Here you are working hard every day, and the colonizer is getting bigger, stronger, and fatter, and you staying skinny, staying hungry, staying broke. Like Pastor White said, staying in houses you can't afford, in all kinds of miserable conditions. So, but in the whole time though, the parasite is doing well. But when you start fighting for your own life. Start taking resources from the tapeworm, to make sure that you get stronger and the tapeworm gets weaker. You start to then recognize the kind of fight you're in, and realize that you can't engage in any kind of a successful long-term tug of war with this tapeworm, because the more you eat, the more the tapeworm wants. The more you work, the more the tapeworm wants. And so the only way to get rid of the tapeworm, the only way to make sure that you live your life for you, your family, your nation, that when you work, you eat, yours eat. The only way to make sure that your resources go to you and yours are not the tapeworm is to get rid of the tapeworm. You can't be in no relationship with the tapeworm. It's either the tapeworm or you. And so you got to get rid of the tapeworm. And when you get rid of the tapeworm, guess what? You get rid of all of the illnesses and ailments that come along with having a damn tapeworm. Speaking of everything wrong, which is the colonialism. We were talking a bit ago at the beginning of the program about the colonial virus, and I told you I was going to tell you a couple of things. Told you I was going to tell you about the conversation we had this past Sunday. I was involved in a conversation with a gentleman talking about the colonial virus, the okie dose. That's what I call that thing. They call it the vaccine, the dose, the okie dose, and the colonial virus, the okie dose. And the mask barrier, and the dose is the exposure, right? But the reality is those are artificial mechanisms proposed to help people fight off what the human body is designed to do naturally. You have two components of your immune system: the innate immune system and the adaptive immune system. The innate immune system is your natural barrier, our natural barrier, mask barrier, innate immune system, natural barrier, your skin, your mucous membranes, your gut, natural barriers to viruses, bacteria, and other such pathogens. Parasites, tapeworm, and if you build and protect and nurture your innate immune system, it will be the barrier that this inferior mask pretends to be. Likewise, the adaptive immune system depends on it gets stronger based on its exposure to these pathogens, these invaders that would ordinarily sicken us. That's why as we grow, as our immune systems adapt, it gets better and stronger the more we're exposed to stuff. That's why generally children get sicker. We get sicker as children more than we do as adults, because by the time we reach adulthood, we've been exposed to a lot of stuff, and our adaptive immune system has begun to recognize what's going on and discern the difference between what belongs in us and what doesn't, what it should kill. Tapeworm, and so the adaptive immune system, based on exposure, can do that job. But oftentimes we foolishly beat back our innate immune system's ability to grow and become robust by doing stuff like taking vaccines, antibiotics, and all kinds of stuff. I mean, some of us even get a fever and want to fight the fever. That is part of our adaptive immune system's response to these types of pathogens, is learning how to do its job, and we want to stop it from doing the job, and so we mess up our adaptive immune system. And so instead of building and protecting our innate immune system, we want to go be fake healthy and get this artificial barrier and this artificial exposure from the okie dose, instead of doing the hard work to maintain a healthy life where it is not a healthy life that is not dependent on these artificial mechanisms. So I think that was important to say. I hope you think so too. But I wanted to leave you with a quote. And let me see. Yeah, here it is. By the time the fool has learned the game, the players have dispersed. Yeah. By the time the fool has learned the game, the players have dispersed. And every time I come on the Life Malcolm show, every time I open my mouth, no matter where I am, I'm trying to give you the game. And if you listen, take heed, I promise you, you won't be the fool just now learning the game when the game is over. Take care of yourself. Take care of your, people you love. Let's build this this nation of tapeworm killers, and also tune in this week to the Envision resolution. Go to Bible based BASED.org/envision and register. I'm gonna do that. I look forward to seeing y'all at the discussion. Thank y'all so much for tuning in to the Life Malcolm Show. I appreciate my callers, and I appreciate you too as well. Till next time, y'all. To be continued.
There's so many girls in here. There's so many girls in here. There's so many girls in here. There's so many girls in here.